All right, folks. I got a couple minutes after 1 o'clock, and I know we're all busy, so I think we'll get this webinar started. My name is Matthew Peterson. I'm a contract manager with the National Joint Powers Alliance, and I want to welcome you to the Job Order Contracting webinar, complimentary of the National Joint Powers Alliance. And we want to thank you for all attending, and a special thanks goes out to, of course, NAEP, the National Association of Educational Procurement, for helping to promote this event. I also want to thank the Gordian Group and Paul Schreier. He is going to be our main presenter today. And Fred Ricketson from Georgia Regents University, who was also on the agenda, was not able to make it. So it's going to be Paul Schreier and myself giving this presentation, and I think we've got something here that's going to be very important for you to listen to. Just some housekeeping items. All the attendees are on mute. We have approximately 50 people in attendance today. So if you'd like to ask a question, I ask you use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. That's the main reason we're here today, is to answer your questions on job order contracting through cooperative purchasing. This webinar will be archived and available on the NAEP website as well as the NGPA website. And we'll have more information on that as well. So with that, we got a lot of information to cover. We're looking at about 40 to 45 minutes of information to go over, and then we'll leave the last 20 to 15 minutes for question and answering. Right now, I would like to introduce Mr. Paul Schreier from the Gordian Group. Paul, I'm passing the presentation to you right now.
All right, well, thank you very much, Matt, and good afternoon, everybody. So if you went to slide 2, you could kind of see the introduction. So I'm the first one, and I'm the Northeast Regional Manager for the Gordian Group. And for the last 20 years, the Gordian Group has helped public owners do job order contracting. So our agenda is, what I'd like to do in the first 15 minutes is just kind of give you an overview of job order contracting. And then I'll turn it back over to Matt, and he can give you a procurement overview from the National Joint Powers Alliance perspective. And then we'll come back and I'll do a couple case studies. I'll give you some real-life projects that were done using job order contracting and talk about some of the advantages of those projects being done in job order contracting. And then, as Matt said, in the end, you guys can ask us questions and we'll be able to answer those questions. So moving on for an overview of job order contracting. As many of you guys know, being involved in the facilities management for universities and colleges across the country, those facilities are being used now more than ever. And the university staff is being asked to do a lot more with less people. So the schedules for the university facilities are also tight because everybody's trying to maximize the availability of those facilities to provide services not only to the students and to the faculty, but also to their communities. So a lot of universities are trying to develop different methods to procure and execute construction, giving them the power to respond to their internal clients faster while still meeting the procurement requirements, because everybody has guidelines about when and how they have to bid and award construction contracts. And as always, universities are trying to decrease their costs. Budgets are getting tighter, and there's more pressure on universities to be more cost effective. So what job order contracting is in general is it gives public owners and private owners the ability to accomplish a substantial number of individual projects with a single competitively bid contract. So what you end up with is you end up with on-call contractors that are ready to perform a series of ongoing projects at different locations on your campuses for preset competitively bid prices. Now, the main focus or the main mission for job order contracting is really what we would define as small to medium-sized, straightforward, standalone construction projects. A lot of renovation, repair, upgrade. A tremendous amount of what we do in job order contracting is replacement in kind projects. So we're not building new $50 or $100 million schools, but we are replacing roofs, replacing windows, doing renovations, replacing doors, replacing hardware. And so that's the focus, what I would call small to medium-sized projects. Some of the owners also use their job order contracting program to complete work of a non-performing contractor. So if they were doing a big building project on campus, and for whatever reason that contractor couldn't finish the work or they couldn't agree on change orders or extra works, some of those public owners will bring in the job order contract to finish the work or to complete extra work that they could not agree on with the traditionally bid contractor. And then there's always priority projects, stuff that doesn't technically fit within the definition of emergency, but it's got to get done really quick. So typically an emergency to suspend competitive bidding would involve some type of life or health safety hazard. And, you know, a lot of times stuff comes up. I mean, schedules change. People want to get stuff done now. It's not technically an emergency, but you still have to get it done quickly. And job order contracting is a vehicle to accomplish those objectives. So typical projects for job order contracting, as I said, it's a lot of replacement in kind, a lot of renovation work. So a lot of the universities are using it to upgrade bathrooms to ADA status. There's a substantial amount of work that's going on right now with lighting upgrades. A lot of LED retrofitting or putting in new LED fixtures. Classrooms change, laboratories change. So job order contracting is an effective way to do that work quickly. Also, in terms of efficiency, there's a lot of HVAC efficiency work going on. So upgrading old AC units, large air conditioning units on roofs, doors and hardware, flooring, ceiling. The rest of those projects, they go on all the time. And job order contracting is a really effective way to accomplish that work quickly. So job order contracting really delivers a faster response. You can get contractors working in days or weeks as opposed to the months that it takes to go through a traditional contracting process. Job order contracting saves money, not only on construction, but the cost of administering, new contracts for every small project. Job order contracting increases the quality of the work because the contractors are motivated to do a good job so that you'll keep giving them work. Job order contractors are not guaranteed to receive a certain amount of work. They have to perform in order to get additional work. So it creates a huge incentive for them to satisfy your cost, your time, and your quality expectations. And job order contracting doesn't replace anything that you're doing now. If you have in-house work crews that work on your campuses, they'll keep going. You have traditional competitive bidding, that still goes on. You might have time and materials contract for some work. You can still use all those. What job order contracting provides is another option to get work done when and if it makes sense to do it. And job order contracting always delivers a competitively bid price. So job order contracting has been around for almost 30 years. It was really started in the Department of Defense as a way for Army facilities to get a lot of work done quickly. And in the United States today, there's over 1,000 job order contracts that are actively in use. The 4 largest school districts, the K-12 school districts in the country, use job order contracting. There's over $1 billion of construction placed annually. And lately we're seeing a lot more states use job order contracting. So there are statewide programs in New York, Arizona, Utah, Georgia, Michigan, and the list goes on. So I provided here on slide 10 just a list of some of the universities and colleges around the country that are using job order contracting effectively. And so you can see there's some pretty big university systems there that use job order contracting routinely to complete work. So let me tell you how these contracts are bid. There's 3 parts to the contract documents. The first is the front end, and that contains like the information for bidders. So if we're going to go out to competitive bid, this is the bid package that the contractors would receive. They'd receive the front end, which would include like the standard form of agreement, which would have your insurance requirements. It would also include the bid form, the terms and conditions of the contract. If it's a prevailing wage rate project, they would also be included. The bid forms would be in there also, and if there's surety forms, they would be part of that front end of the contract document. Now, the second document, that's the thing that really separates job order contracting from traditionally bid construction projects. There's typically a unit price book, or what we call a construction task catalog, and it's literally like a Sears catalog of construction tasks that could be in and around a campus facility. And there's a unit price for everything, and there's a price to demolish it. And those unit prices include the direct cost of construction only. There's no overhead or profit. So they include the wage rate, the labor costs, right, the material, and the equipment costs. And these catalogs are customized for the owner's tasks and standards. So if a particular owner only wants Von Duprin panic devices throughout the facility, the catalog is built around those particular products. And you can see I put in an example here of a typical task that would appear in a construction task catalog. So there's a unique identifying number on the left-hand side. There's a unit of measure, which could be square foot, each, lineal foot. Then there's a description of the individual task. And off to the right, those are the 2 columns of price. The first is the unit price to install the item, and the second is the unit price to demolish the item. And then under a lot of the tasks are these things we call modifiers, and they're going to adjust the price up or down based on a change in quantity or a change in the material price. So on the next slide, I gave you some other examples of tasks that might be in the construction task catalog. And remember, this is direct costs only. There's no overhead or profit involved in those prices. And then the third part of the contract documents is the technical specifications, and they're really going to dictate the quality of the workmanship and the quality of the material required to accomplish those tasks that are set forth in the construction task catalog. So those are the 3 documents. They go out to the contractors, and, you know, like traditional bidding, there's generally a pre-bid conference where everything's presented to the potential bidders and they get to ask questions. But what the owners can't tell the contractor is they can't tell them exactly what work they're going to do. They can't commit to any specific project or location, and there's no estimated quantities of tasks that appear in the construction task catalog. What they can tell them is the job has a fixed term. Maybe it's 1 year with an option period, maybe it's for 2 years. And there's typically is a guaranteed minimum value of some nominal work that the contractor's going to get, but that's not necessarily so. It could also be 0. And then typically the job order contractor will have an estimated annual value, which we're saying to the contractor, look, if you win this contract, maybe you could do $1 million or $2 million worth of work a year. That's going to be made up of these smaller projects. So then we ask contractors to bid a multiplier, what we call an adjustment factor, to be applied to that construction task catalog. And that adjustment factor, we typically ask for 2 if we ask them to work standard work shifts, say 7 to 3:30 Monday through Friday. And then a second adjustment factor, presumably higher, if they have to work on the evenings, Saturdays, Sundays, or any of the recognized holidays. So most of our clients are public owners, and they would award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder. But a lot of people have the flexibility to do best value awards, so that process might, price might be a factor in their award, but they get to consider other items like the experience of the contractor, their management staff, and proposed management plans. But however you award the contract, let's say we go out to bid and we have the construction task catalog and all the bid documents, and we receive bids and we've identified a low bidder and they get the contract. Now they're going to be the on-call contractor for the university to access to do projects. And for each project that we do in job order contracting, we always go through the same 5-step process, where first we have a joint scope meeting at the project site where all the parties meet and discuss the work. Then we're going to develop a detailed scope of work, and that's going to be sent to the contractor. And step 3 is for the contractor to develop a proposal. The contractor is going to go into the construction task catalog and pull out those tasks and assign those quantities required to accomplish that detailed scope of work. They're going to multiply it by the correct adjustment factor depending upon the schedule of when the work's going to happen. They're also going to prepare a construction schedule and a list of subcontractors. That proposal package goes back to the owner. The owner reviews it and might ask the contractor to make certain changes. And if everything's acceptable, at the end of the day, the university can issue a job order to that contractor to accomplish the detailed scope of work. That process moves really quickly in job order contracting. For very simple jobs, it could be as little as 5 days or a week. And for more complex jobs, maybe it takes up to 30 days. But it's typically a lot faster than the traditional process, and it moves as quickly as the parties can move. So what job order contracting does is it delivers a huge incentive for the contractor to provide responsive services and the quality of work, because the future job orders are tied to that contractor's current performance. There's no obligation to award the contractor future projects. And so it creates a huge incentive for the contractor to show up, be responsive, have a safe project site, meet your construction schedule, minimize disruption to university activities, and to deliver at the end of the day a good project. I mean, the more the contractor can do to lessen the impact of construction on the university, the happier the university is going to be and more likely to give the contractor future work. So you guys can see that job order contracting obviously it saves time, but it also saves money, because you're able to do a series of individual projects using one single competitively bid contract. So you don't have procurement costs after the initial bid. And contractors are not bidding on, a $30,000 or $50,000 one-off project. They're bidding on the volume of work that they could receive over the course of the year. And so that's like a volume discount that you would, get at buying boxes of cereals in really large quantities. You would get a better price. And that's what contractors are doing. So our average project size in job order contracting across the country is generally under $100,000. But the idea here is that the contractor is going to do a bunch of these small projects. They're going to add up to $1 million or $2 or $3 million worth of work a year. So they're going to give you a volume discount. The idea of using a construction task catalog is you don't have to negotiate anything. So there's preset unit prices times the quantity times the contractor's adjustment factor is how the contractor gets paid. It's always a competitive price, no matter what work you ask the contractor to do. And clearly, it's not a time and materials contract. So the contractor, let's say for a 3x7 solid wood stave core door that appears in the catalog and it's $200, you're going to pay the contractor $200 times the quantity times the adjustment factor. And that contractor has to get the work done for that price. So it creates a significant incentive for efficiency. And since the contractor is part of the joint scope process and everything's really well thought out before it's bid, there's virtually no post-construction claims. There's not negotiated change orders because they're priced out of the construction task catalog. And the contractor being part of the joint scope meeting really clarifies a lot of the things that might have led to change orders, but they don't. So in a typical job process, the contractor still has to get the file for a permit. If there's differing site conditions, it's all priced out of the construction task catalog, so it eliminates a lot of the problems that go around negotiating change orders. You can include liquidated damages, but they'd be assigned on a job order by job order basis, and typically they're handled as a percentage of the job order price. Usually construction task catalogs are customized for the owner's standards. And you can put, like if Bobrick Bathrooms accessories are your standards, you can include those tasks in the construction task catalog so you know exactly what you're buying. In our experience, we find that local contractors generally deliver the most responsive services, and they are invested in the community. They want to do a good job. They want to have a long-term relationship. So when we're setting up job order contracts, we're really trying to recruit those local contractors that we believe, have a history of doing a good job. It's also an effective way to increase MBE, WBE participation, because with smaller projects, it's easier to use a large number of smaller MBE, WBE contracts. So meeting those participation goals is easier in job order contracting because you're doing a wider variety of work, but you're still dealing with small projects. And what a lot of owners do is they make MBE, WBE participation goals a requirement for the contractor to get additional work. So again, it creates an incentive for the contractor to meet your expectations in order to get additional projects from you. And in terms of construction inspections and signing off on payments, closeout, getting the O&M manuals, everything follows the owner's standards procedure. And as I said before, payment and performance bonds can be required as part of the program. The other trend we're seeing is that instead of just having one general contractor, a lot of owners would like to have specialty contractors or trade contractors. So you can award job order contracts for general construction, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. There's a variety. And then you can split up the university so you're not just relying on one general contractor. You can split your university in 2 or 3 areas, and you can have a general contractor identified and awarded for the buildings that are located in that particular area. And that also gives some people options. So if they have 3 contractors assigned to 3 different geographical areas and they include a provision in the contract that says if for any reason one contractor can't respond, then we can go to the next contractor, as long as you provide like an orderly process to do that and a procedure that everybody will follow. That's generally acceptable, even for our public municipals, town and state clients. So to kind of summarize, job order contracting has been around for 30 years. There's numerous studies which show how much time and money it saves. And it also increases the options to complete work. It doesn't replace anything that you're doing now. It just gives you another way to get construction done when and if it makes sense to use the process. And it does eliminate disputes and claims. There's not a lot of claims in job order contracting, and there's not a lot of disputes. And that's basically just because how the contract is structured. Everybody talks about everything up front, and everything's priced out of the construction task catalog. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Matt.
Hey, thanks, Paul. If you could just right-click on my name, make me a presenter.
I think I did.
Awesome. Paul, can you hear me all right? I just want to make sure that's good first.
Yes. Yes,
all right,
I can.
good. All right, thanks, Paul. It's a lot of information to go through and a lot of good information. What I want to do now is talk to you about getting access to this through a cooperative means, meaning that we've already gone out and competitively bid in your area and have contractors awarded ready to do the work in the way that Paul just explained to you. And I first want to do that by explaining who NGPA is, or more importantly, what contract purchasing, otherwise known as cooperative purchasing, is. I always start out by stating at NGPA, we are actually a government agency. I'm a public employee. I pay into an account called PARA, Public Employee Retirement Account, in hopes that someday I see something from that, and I'm sure I will. But We are created to help other government agencies, government serving government. And we've been given a legislative authority to go out and facilitate the competitive bid process on behalf of other municipalities. That includes schools, and it includes schools and universities, K through 12s, public, private. As long as it's an educational agency, we have been given permission to go out and help. Just want to touch on our legal authority a little bit. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but we have legal authority to do this, and we do it through what's known as a joint powers law. And basically what this law states is what one government agency does on its own, two government agencies can do together or share. They can share that power. Every state has a law like this. It can be called an exercise of powers law. It can be called an interlocal government agreement. Whatever the name is, it all states that same thing, that we can share powers. Now, acceptance and comfort of this, it always depends upon states, it depends on locations, and it depends upon facilities. But I can say the acceptance of this type of purchasing has grown and grown and grown. It's been around for quite some time in your administrative side, and the popularity of it growing in your facility side to access services is growing very quickly. A few things about NJPA, our membership, it's no cost, there's no obligation, there's no liability. Some unique things with regards to construction and job order contracting that we're talking about today. I've been out and worked very closely with the Gordian Group. We've gone out and awarded over 300 contracts currently through job order contracting, and we've not had one protest by any competing companies, which is something I like to brag about because of the thoroughness in our comprehensive procurement process. Membership also gives you access to over 170 other contracts. We have awards with vendors like in the likes of Granger, Staples Business Supply, Caterpillar, United Rentals, just world-class companies that are a part or have gone through a procurement process with NJPA. The number one reason we require a membership is because it establishes that necessary paper trail. So if you as a facility manager go out and redo the roof in Building 3, and at the end of the year your procurement director or your accountant comes down and says, hey, we did this roof project this year, but I don't see any competitive bid documentation on it, you can come to your membership with NJPA. We have all that documentation, including the affidavit for advertisement, comment and review, the acceptance and award, any addendums that were made, all the bid documents necessary to prove a competitive bid has been done. We hold that on your behalf. The value of contract purchasing, many of you may be aware of this. It reduces the impact to agency staff and budget cuts. You know, I travel the country, I do a lot of presentations, I do a lot of conferences, and I have a lot of facility managers come up to me, and they're all stating the same thing. Budget's been slashed. My staff's been cut. I need to get the same amount of work done, but I just don't have the time, and that's when they turn to NJPA. We satisfy the competitive bid process on behalf of our members. It also gives you choice. It gives you a choice to use the products and services that you would like through a competitive means. And I always say it gives you an opportunity to avoid some of those low bid consequences and choose the contractor that you want to work with through job order contracting, or buy and procure the products and services that you want, and most of all, you deserve. This is a little slide that just kind of shows the membership. We have members throughout the whole country in each and every state. People have used our members. We're starting to break into Canada a little bit, which is kind of unique. But we have over 50,000 members across the country that are using our contracts to date. Here's a little bit about NJPA and what we've done in the higher ed world. As you can see on this slide, over 3,000 university members. We've done quite a few sales through job order contracting already. Cooperative purchasing sales, you're looking at over 21 million to higher ed on the private side. And if you look at that number, we're approaching 100 million on the public side. These numbers are growing exponentially and growing more and more as the popularity of cooperative purchasing increases. Who qualifies for membership? Just kind of want to jump through this quick to give you an idea of the different entities that are using NJPA and cooperative purchasing. You have cities, counties, water districts for doing unique things with Native Americans. If it's a municipality, they can become a member of NJPA. I mentioned educational agencies, K through 12s, charter schools, higher ed universities, colleges. If it's an educational agency, again, it can become a member of NJPA. And we also work with the nonprofit sector, and it's fastly becoming one of our strongest verticals here at NJPA. So our responsibilities through NGPA, through EasyIQC, are a little bit different. I talked about we have 170 different contracts out there, like Granger, like United Rentals, like Caterpillar. We bid those on a national basis. We do one competitive bid that covers the entire country. What we did with EasyIQC is a little bit different. Actually, it's a lot different. We went to a local level. We went into each state and we procured at a local level. We even broke the states into regions. So these bids or these contracts that we hold with EasyIQC are done at that local level. And like Paul said, in an attempt to get that local contractor, that local small business work for that state or that region. As a public agency, I always like to add this too, we do not need to have a lead agency. Because we are a government agency, we can work directly with universities and colleges. We do not have to go out and procure it through another government agency, which there are other contract purchasing agencies out there that would need to do that because they are a for-profit. It just takes another layer out of the equation, if you will. So, there's a little overview of contract purchasing, a very high-level overview. But as I travel the country, one of the biggest, I'll say, complaints I get from facility managers is how do I procure construction projects? The type of projects Paul talked about, your remodels, your renovations, your light new construction, those type of projects. And as a cooperative organization at NJPA, how do we bid a project that has not been seen? And the answer is job order contracting. We met the Gordian Group back in 2008 at an NGPA conference, and they showed us this construction task catalog with 200 and some thousand line items in construction, and light bulbs went off. There's our project right there. So now as Paul went over our competitive bid process, we can award contracts before they're even seen to contractors that we can share with our members throughout the country. Now it took NJPA and the Gordian Group over 2.5 years to roll this entire general construction, or EasyIQC as we call it, program out across the entire country. And we broke states into regions, so everything was bid at a local level. I'd also like to point out there's another reason to break these things into regions is because this is a pricing guide. This is not an estimating guide. This is what the Gordian Group does, and they do it well, is they will price catalogs to specific areas. We all know the price of construction varies from metropolitan areas to rural areas. And that's what the Gordian Group does. And that's why we break these states into regions, so we can get more price specific. But after rolling this program out in the 2.5 years, we kind of look back and we've seen some instant success. Right away, the state of Georgia adopted NJPA EasyIQC contracts and is now recommending that municipals within the state are using this program. The state of Ohio was not long after Georgia, and they came to us and said, wow, what you're doing is incredible. Can we use those contracts you've already procured and share with that contract? And we even went one step above with the state of Ohio in that we rebid the state for them using Easy IQC, and they adopted our contract from there. We did the hard work for them with the procurement process, and they are piggybacking off our contracts. We do a lot of different work in a lot of different agencies across the country, K through 12s, universities and colleges, cities, counties, Department of Transportation. I mean, we've worked with almost every entity there is out there that has to do with municipal purchasing. What we found, and I know Paul talked about this, I'll go over this a little quicker. Facility managers enjoy this solution. Number one, we've already done the dirty work. The procurement process has been done. We've got contractors on call ready to go to work. We can have projects off the ground in a matter of weeks instead of months. So everything's a lot faster. It's a lot less expensive. You think about a contractor bidding an area of a state to do jobs. The pricing usually comes in a little bit better. Lower procurement and administrative costs for you folks. We've already done the competitive bid process. No need to duplicate that. Fewer change orders because of how this is procured. And the Gordian Group is a part of this function from the scope of the job to issuing you the estimate or the price. We also have been very successful in getting our local minority disadvantaged businesses work through this program. A lot of the contractors that have been awarded are your general type contractors. They go into communities and they look to work with the local small businesses, minority, and disadvantaged workers. This is also performance-based contracting. If we have a contractor that is not performing, not doing their job, not making our members happy, we will put them in the penalty box and not give them any more work. And this drives performance. They do not want to miss out on potential work. This is a lot of advantages for facility managers out there when using this program. We've gone through it now. It's 2013. We've been doing this for 5 years. We've learned a lot of lessons along the way. We've also began to start creating some specialty jock programs for our members. This includes roofing contracts, where we've gone out throughout most of the country now and done a procurement specifically for roofing contracts. We've broke the book down from its 200,000 line items, and we've worked with roofing contractors to create a construction task catalog specifically for roofing. We've also done that for mitigation and restoration contracts. We've done some local trade-specific contracts in certain states. And our newest one, and what we're doing actually right now, we're in the process of it, is energy efficiency contracts. And we're working with the Energy Coalition, LA County, and the state of California right now on some unique projects involving energy efficiency. So this program continues to grow. There's a lot of opportunities out there. I suggest you look into it. And what I want to do right now is pass this back to Paul, because we're going to go over some specific case studies that relate to universities and schools. So Paul, I've passed that presenter privilege back to you. You're on board.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Matt. And I do want to emphasize that although National Joint Powers Alliance and the Gordian Group both have a national footprint, we work locally. So we do price the construction task catalogs in the local market. We price all the material and the equipment costs in the local market, and the contracts are generally awarded to the local contractor. So we operate in 200 different locations across the country. So we're very good at getting local price and local interest in the contracts. So what I wanted to do is just go over a couple university case studies with you. The first is Bowling Green State University. So on June 21st, 2012, they were kind of under the gun. They had to get 250 dorm rooms painted before the students returned for the summer. And I know that, planning is the best course of action, but sometimes for whatever reason, people make decisions things slip through the cracks, budgets get authorized or, taken away and then reauthorized, and stuff happens. So people have to move quickly. So that was the issues facing Bowling Green State University in painting these 250 dorm rooms. So they had to get it done really quickly. They needed it done by August 10th. So they came to EasyIQ and said, EasyIQC, and said, can you guys do this quickly? And we said, yes, that's what we're designed to do. So you can see the critical dates there on the bottom where they identified the job quickly. They had the joint scope meeting with the contractor. The price proposal was turned around, the purchase order issued, and the construction was completed ahead of schedule. One of the other interesting things about this project was that Bowling Green State University was under kind of a tight budget to get it done. So when the contractor submitted the price proposal, the university could look through that price proposal and see the cost of every single thing associated with doing that job. And they identified moving the furniture out of the dorm rooms, storing it, and then putting it back in as something that they could do with their in-house facility staff. So they actually saved almost $11,000 because they identified that. And they said, okay, contractor, I see all the prices. We will do the moving of the furniture ourselves, and they saved $11,000. And that's one thing about job order contracting that a lot of the universities like, because they do have in-house staff that can do certain things. And they'll use that staff to save money and have those guys do that work while letting the EasyIQC contractor do the rest of the project. Another application of seeing all the prices before you agree to the job is that sometimes you're trying to meet a budget. And if you did it in traditional competitive bidding, once you go out to bid and you identify the low bidder, if you want to take stuff out or change stuff in the contract, it's a very cumbersome process. You have to negotiate everything. And all of a sudden, everything that you don't want to do, that you want to take credit for, somehow the contractor was going to do that for free, or his guys were going to work at the speed of light, and so the credit is really, really small because it wasn't going to cost the contractor anything. In EasyIQC, you see all the prices for everything, and they're fixed. So if you want to take a credit, it comes out at the price that it went in at. If you want to make a change to get within budget, like let's say you had picked a really, really nice high density carpet, but you said, well, if I just go with VCT floor tile, I can save that money. So you ask the contractor to make those changes, but you're not negotiating it. So you could do the same thing if you had originally wanted customized cabinets, but you realize that they're very expensive. You can switch to a standard cabinet, and you can see those prices, and everything moves pretty quickly without negotiation. So there's a big advantage to see of all the prices, especially if you're trying to work within a budget before you actually issue that purchase order. So the second sample project is from Athens Technical College. And Caterpillar Corporation, as you guys know, is like a world's leading manufacturer of construction and mining equipment. So they decided that they're going to locate a brand new facility about 60 miles east of downtown Atlanta. And they wanted to make an association with a local college to do training. So they made an agreement with the Athens Technical College that the college would set up a training facility for all the Caterpillar employees to access. And the Athens Technical College had to move quickly because Caterpillar is a private company. They can build projects really quickly. So Athens Technical College had to get their training facility up at the same time the Caterpillar plant was coming online. So the college identified some empty space at their college, right? And they accessed the local EasyIQC contractor to get the renovations completed. And it was a big project. It was $1.8 million when all was said and done that the college had to complete. And they had to get it done quickly. So the college could not have done this with the traditional procurement method. This large-scale renovation project was completed on time, within budget, and it met Caterpillar's deadline, and they were available for the first day of work when the Caterpillar's employees showed up. All right, so this was a pretty qualified contractor that did this work, obviously. I mean, $1.8 million, doing it really quickly. That contractor was Lesco Construction. They're a local contractor, and they were a key component in quickly starting and completing the project. And by the way, for this project, the Technical College won the 2012 Southeast Regional Award for Excellence in Job Order Contracting, which is an award given every year to identify jobs that are completed in Easy IQC that exemplify best the benefits from job order contracting in Easy IQC. And then you can see on page 45, there's a nice quote from the president of the Athens Technical College. So the next project is from Mansfield University in Pennsylvania. And what the university did is they decided that they were going to dedicate an area on site on their campus facility to house a new private campus housing facility. And they elected to locate that new facility on an existing parking lot. Well, kind of like dealing with Caterpillar Tractor, I mean, private developers that are trying to get a housing facility up, on time so that they can start renting it out, they move quickly. So Mansfield University, the decision was made at the last minute. They said, okay, put it in the parking lot, and now they had to come up with a new parking lot. So they accessed the Easy IQC process, and this project went very quickly. Joint scope meeting was held on a Thursday. The price proposal was received on Monday, and the purchase order was issued to the contractor within a week. It only took 7 days to go from identifying the project to issuing a purchase order to the contract, and the construction was completed in 21 days. Like I said before, good planning eliminates a lot of procurement emergencies, but sometimes certain things happen, and long-term planning is not a realistic option. But in this case, Easy IQC was a solution. And there you can see the outcome, and obviously the director of purchasing for Mansfield University was very happy. So the other project is from Weber State University in Utah. And what they did is they had to renovate a playground space to bring it up to ADA code. And the problem with this job was that there was a lot of coordination because the children's facility wanted to keep the part of the play area active. So they really needed a contractor that they could trust and that would schedule the work with them and do a safe and complete job. So the contractor had to carefully phase the work to ensure the children still had a safe place to play during construction. And it obviously included a detailed phasing schedule and significant coordination with the school. There were some changes that came up with this job, but all the changes were priced out of the construction task catalog, so the contractor was very accommodating and moved forward quickly without standing around saying, oh, I'm not going to do the rest of this work unless we negotiate those changes, because they're going to get paid whether they start the work today or tomorrow or next week. So the project was a success for Weber State University facilities manager Chad Downs. So he was able to meet his schedule and the needs of the child development department and stay within his project budget. So the primary reason for the upgrade, as I said, was to bring it up to ADA code. And it now allows those with disabilities to access the play area. So there's a nice quote from Chad Downs, who was the project manager for Weber State University also. So in Easy IQC, as we had said, all work, including changes, deletions, and extra work, is priced right from the construction task catalog using the competitively bid adjustment factors. It's never negotiated. So the absence of negotiation definitely allows everybody to focus on getting the changed work or the extra work done instead of fighting about project costs and ultimately delaying the project. So that's the presentation. And if you guys have any questions, if you would type them in Matt and I would be happy to answer them.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
Yep.
I got one question here that I see, and it kind of deals with change conditions. I think it's a good one for you to answer, Paul.
Okay.
How does job order contracting deal with change conditions once the contract work is underway?
Right. That's a great question. Once you award the purchase order or the contract, through the EasyITC or job order contracting process, owners always have the right to make changes once construction starts, or if they identify change conditions in the field. And as I mentioned a couple times, that's one of the best advantages of job order contracting, because you're not negotiating change orders. If you want to take a credit for something, it comes out of the price proposal at the exact same price that it went in at. So there's no negotiation. And then when you want to add extra work or change work, it's all priced from the construction task catalog. So contractors are not motivated to delay your project and kind of leverage whatever delay ramifications might be. If they do the work yesterday, today, tomorrow, they always get the same. They always get paid the same. So there's a lot of confidence in the contractor's ability to say, okay, well, change whatever you want. I'm going to do it because I promised to do the work at the price in the catalog times the quantity times the adjustment factor. So that was a great question.
Yeah. I just want to
go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, Paul. I just want to reiterate, if you do have questions, you can use that chat box to the lower right to type them in, and we'll get to them. We have a few more here, Paul. I think this is another one for you, and it's kind of a different one. How are bid factors typically calculated?
Right. The bid factors are, as I said, they're what we call the adjustment factors. So it's a markup that the contractor wants to apply to the fixed prices that appear in the unit price book or the construction task catalog. So, all those construction task catalogs are priced locally. So what the contractors do is they look at the direct costs that appear in the catalog for things like, painting a square foot of drywall or a particular type of door or bathroom fixture or hardware. And then they have to make sure that that lines up with their direct costs, and they have to include their overhead and profit. So if I was a contractor and I looked at the construction task catalog and I thought that lined up really well with my direct costs, and I'd like to make 10% overhead and 10% profit on everything I do, so my adjustment factor would be a 1.2100. It works out like that because that's how they do the math. And what the contractor's promising to do is they're saying, I will do anything you ask me to do on your campus for the price that appears in the book times the quantity times my competitively bid adjustment factor. If another contractor felt as if the prices were a little low and they still wanted to make 10 and 10, they'd have to bid a higher number, like 1.2300 or 1.24. And if they thought the prices in the book were just a little bit high, they could still make their overhead and profit, but they would only have to bid like a 1.17 or 1.16. And that kind of leads me into the other question I saw here about the question of, do you have to award them to the lowest bidder? And I'll answer that question by saying that most public owners have to award contracts to the lowest responsible bidder. But over the last 10 years, a lot of laws are changing, and they're giving public owners more flexibility in awarding contracts based on best value. And of course, some quasi-public and private clients can award based on best value. And all that means is that price is not the driving factor in awarding the contract. So it works out for a lot of private university clients because they have 2 or 3 local contractors that they really like, and they know they've got a lot of history with them. So they basically can do a best value award, and that works really, really well for the clients that can do that.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
I have one more question. I think this is one I can handle, and you could add to it if need be, Paul. But somebody had a question: how do I begin using JOC through NJPA? And I think it's a pretty easy answer. Number one, if you're not a member of NJPA, you can easily become a member. Again, it's no cost. It's free. You can become a member online at njpacoop.org. And then we've set this up to make it very easy for you to use. If you go to easyiqc.com, a screen will pop up and you can enter in your facilities information, some simple questions about the project, and submit that. And then NJPA or a Gordian group, not necessarily NJPA, but a Gordian group representative will get back to you usually within 24 hours to set up a meeting to go over the scope of the project. And that just gets the whole thing started right there. They'll contact a contractor, so on and so forth, once they learn more about the project. Very easy to do. Paul, anything to add there?
Yeah, I would just add that, I mean, that was a great description of, how to get started in the process. And I will say that the Gordian Group's role in EasyIQC is to represent the university or the public owner. I mean, our job is to coordinate with the contractor to make sure the detailed scope of work is accurate. And then when the contractor submits the price proposal, we are involved to make sure that the contractor selected the right task, the right quantities, and is using the correct adjustment factor. Because we realize that this process is new to a lot of people, and they would not be comfortable like reviewing a price proposal, especially a detailed one that comes in from the contractor. So that's what we do. That's our role, to represent the owner. And there's no direct cost to the owner. They hire the contractor to do the work. They don't pay the Gordian Group.
That's right. I like to call it an extra blanket of security, knowing that the Gordian Group is overlooking all of these price proposals and going through the scopes, helping the contractor make sure they're building these projects correctly. It's an added security, if you will, for our members and for NJPA. I have no more questions on the screen, Paul, and we're hitting that 2 o'clock hour, so we're right at closing time.
Yep.
So with that, I think what we'll do is we'll just conclude this webinar. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope you got something out of it. We want to thank NAEP. We want to thank Paul. I want to thank you a lot for coming on. It was a lot of great information. You explain it very well and very simply. So thank you for helping us out, Paul. And remember, this webinar will be archived and available on the NAEP and NJPA website. Try saying that 10 times. Please feel free to pass this information along to any of your colleagues. If you have any questions, Paul Schreier's contact information is on the screen, and my information is there as well. Feel free to call either of us, and we'll help answer any questions that you have. So with that, I just want to thank everyone once again, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.